Our next presenter is Michael Chao. Michael's presentation is Insect Diversity Along the Palos Verdes Peninsula in Southern California. Michael is a 16-year-old amateur entomologist who lives in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. This is his third year attending the IECC, and he hopes to be able to attend many more in the future. And the animal he's hoping to see is the Arizona unicorn mantis. Welcome, Michael, to the stage.
So I'm happy to be here for the third year, and today I'll be talking about how urbanization affects the invertebrate population in general, and also in my region, Palos Verdes. So first, what made me think of this experiment? Well, first thing was that there's a lot of animal conservation going on, and many are for large vertebrates though, like a Bengal tiger or great giant pandas. However, I don't see much information on how our impact affects insect populations. And that also combined with, I a lot of times go collecting in my region, and I actually find there's a rural area some rare species that are not recorded in my region, such as the Steindaschner ebony tarantula and some Nicophorus species. And also, there used to be some species there that no longer exist, such as the Lytan ground mantis, as well as some certain Phasmida species. So how I executed the experiment. I first had to find an urban zone and an untouched zone in my region. And these two areas became Hess Park, which is going to be the urban zone, and Windport Canyon Creek for the wild zone. Hess Park is a large area of large land that's been highly urbanized. As you see, there are many planted pines, sycamores, and other trees that are non-native. There's also a great area that's been taken down for grasslands and also baseball game area too. But it also has a hiking area that has some planted native plants, and it's also been watered. And the next sample was Windport Canyon Creek. This place is an old creek bed that's been pretty much untouched by humans, and it sits right next to Hess Park. And it has pretty much all its local plants, fauna, and geographic features still untouched. So some of the materials I use are the basic collecting materials, like a bio-equipped net, nitrate gloves, forceps, syringes, of course the insect pins, and so many more things, containers and such. So methods used to execute this plan. So I decided to make this a 6-week-long project with 3 hours spent. And so I would go Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. every morning on Sundays, and 1.5 hours spent on each spot. I would visit Hess Park first, and then Windport Canyon. And then I decided to use 3 collecting methods to get as many species as possible. First of the method was sighting species, like using my eyes to find moths, butterflies, and bees that will come to flowers to pollinate and catching them. Then also I would use sweep netting to find small microscopic species that I otherwise couldn't spot. And lastly, I would flip over debris and find subterranean species like earwigs, eleodes, and termites. And once I've collected everything, I would go back to my home and spend about an hour or two attempting to identify every species. I use the aid of iNaturalist and Bug Guide to identify these species. And I would identify them through physical specimens or pictures I took on field. So from the experience, what I found is the total species-wise, surprisingly, Hess Park actually had 102 species in total, which actually beat Windport Canyon, which is the rural sample that's supposed to be untouched, which only had 73 species. But when it came to total individuals, Hess Park had 685 individuals captured, while Windport Canyon had a whopping 977 individuals collected, which is quite a bit more. And then being that Hess Park had a slightly larger area, I took the species richness, or the average amount of species within the area, which turned out to be relatively the same between both areas, which I found rather surprising. So analyzing it, so first and foremost, I think the reason why Hess Park had that many species to begin with is despite its urbanization and tearing down of native habitat, it did keep a portion of its native habitat. And on top of that, it actually worked to plant various native plants. In fact, it had a bigger diversity of native plants than it did in Wimport Canyon. And therefore, I believe it had more species. And then, especially, it had more hymenopterans and butterflies, which are pollinators. However, being that the Wimport Canyon is a rural area that's rather untouched, it has more habitat and then more plants as well. Therefore, it has more areas for insects to live, therefore giving giving more species. I mean, not more species, but more individuals to be in there. So in conclusion, I came with that urbanization does in fact affect insects. Well, that's in their total population. So once an area is urbanized, their complete population would decrease. However, as long as we keep some native plants alive within an urban area, it seems as though the species can be preserved still. And therefore, I believe we can still coexist as long as we preserve some of the native habitat and plants, as well as building around it. And that's about it for my presentation. Thank you.
Got time for questions? Why are you making this old guy run all over the place? You could come up to the microphone.
Quicker, faster. Michael, that was excellent. So I worked on a project for many years where we were comparing urban environments to natural environments, and we would sometimes get really surprising results where, more urbanized environments would have increased biodiversity, but maybe less natives. But another component that you should definitely consider is the amount of water, because that was something we were noticing. So some of these, more natural areas would have drier periods, and so that would affect at that time when you were collecting. So just something to consider because I assume we're going to continue to do this kind of important work, that the humidity, the amount of water access is going to affect what you're collecting at that time. So I guess I didn't have a question. It was more of a comment, but I just wanted to congratulate you on that awesome study.
Thank you. But I actually did notice that wild area I was collecting was significantly dry during that period. In fact, it was kind of during the fall, so all the plants were seeding. Well, the Hess Park was watered, so that probably also made a big difference. Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, good. It's not clear over the other side of the room.
Thank you for doing this. This is great. I wanted to ask you if you plan to continue to do this for longer periods, or maybe devise something, because you seem someone that's like very interested in this, and what's lacking a lot of times are these like data sets that span years, and decades and so on, and those can be so helpful in kind of monitoring species over time at a certain spot, I guess.
Yes, I do plan on continuing it. I also plan on doing it during different seasons, and also going to different regions. There are some regions that have greater biodiversities in the wild, like there's like the tarantula areas, that I talked about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any from the online? No?
I really hope you do continue, and I would also recommend using a passive form of collection, because that will definitely help with sample bias. Especially like you go to one place first, and then by the time you get to the second place, you might start to get a little tired. So if there's a way to get permission to set up something like a Malaise trap, that's going to really help to eliminate those factors when you're comparing what you're collecting. So, Michael, let's chat.
Thank you. So next time I do plan to set up pitfall traps as well. So, yeah.
Great talk. I was wondering if you by chance went out at the same time each for each collection site, and if you were planning on collecting during the day versus the night as well, because you get a very different group of insects and bugs out there too.
For this experiment, I did go around the same time every time, but if I'm going to continue, I'll definitely go during different times as well. definitely at night, because I know a lot of nocturnal species come out during that time. And maybe even setting up a black light for nocturnal moths.
Cool. Anyone else? All right. Thank you.